And our next live English mindfulness session will be on October 16th with Lisa Varno. The Parkinson's Foundation provides weekly education and wellness programs virtually through our PD Health at Home series, which includes our Mindfulness Mondays, Wellness Wednesdays, Fitness Fridays, expert briefings, and our Spanish language programming, AP Salud en Casa. Join us for our next Wellness Wednesday on October 11th. We will be hosting an expert briefing this week on Parkinson's and the gut-brain connection. While stomach or intestinal distress can lead to anxiety or depression, gut-brain connections can go much further. New research strongly suggests a link between the gut, the gastrointestinal system, and Parkinson's disease. During this expert briefing, we will learn more about the gut's potential impact on symptoms and progression. You can find out more and register for our PD Health at Home events at parkinson.org/pdhealth. I'd like to bring special attention to our event on October 18th. We will be hosting a program designed for people living with Parkinson's who have not shared their diagnosis publicly. As you can imagine, this particular community is hard to reach. And so I'm asking you to help us spread the word about this special event. Please share with your community, support groups, exercise classes, or wherever you feel this program may make an impact on someone's life as they navigate their diagnosis of Parkinson's. We recognize that both cultural and financial factors come into play in the decision to come out with Parkinson's, which can be emotional and personal. So attendees will hear from peers who have navigated this process and the lessons they've learned. We will also highlight ways to find support without sharing a diagnosis beyond their comfort level. And in November, we will follow up with Parkinson's Anonymous, keeping their secret. So please help us spread the word on this special event. You can find out more again at parkinson.org/pdhealth, and we've also posted that on the Parkinson's Foundation Facebook page. If you're new to Parkinson's or finding a change in course of your journey with Parkinson's, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We have a comprehensive website that addresses everything related to PD at parkinson.org, or you can call our helpline if you prefer to talk to a real live person at 1-800-4PD-INFO, or email us at helpline@parkinson.org. That's it for our housekeeping items and things that are coming up this week and next. And now I will share the mic with Dr. Taylor Rush. Thanks for being here, Dr. Rush.
All right. Thank you so much, Krista. It's so good to see all of you here today. And I was looking at the chat, and we have people logging in from all over the US as well as the world, which is always so exciting to see and so humbling given where things started with Mindfulness Monday a couple of years ago. So we're so grateful to have you all with us today. And I thought today we could maybe talk a little bit about how to mindfully ride the waves of emotion. And in some of our previous Mindfulness Mondays, you may have noticed that we gravitate towards particular emotions like difficult emotions or strong emotions, or gratitude or grief or other things. And I think sometimes it is important to really dig into some of those topics more specifically. But sometimes I think we also need to take a step back and recognize that all of the emotions we experience, good, bad, and in between, the ones that are strong, the ones that are quiet, the ones that we see as predominant experiences, and others that are more undercurrents, are all important to recognize. And for many of my folks that I work with who have Parkinson's, they will often describe to me that they feel as if they experience emotions a bit more strongly than perhaps they did before their diagnosis. And they may notice that they become more tearful more easily. If they're watching a commercial or a Hallmark movie, they may notice that they're feeling a bit more sentimental or nostalgic. They may sometimes even express affection more frequently in saying how they feel about their loved ones and people that they care about, and saying things like, "I love you," like in ways that perhaps that they hadn't done before. And so they may notice some of these changes in their emotional experiences. And we know that some of this can be due to some of the chemical changes that occur in the brain as a result of Parkinson's. And sometimes how we experience emotions and how our brain processes emotions can be a little bit different. And sometimes it's also due to the influence of Parkinson's on their lives. For some people, they describe that they feel that time is passing more quickly, or they may be more aware of their own mortality, or they may feel a bit more of an amplified sense of how life is precious. And so, all of those things I think are completely normal. And I reiterate that to the folks that I work with many times over, because we all experience emotions every single day. We experience these waves of emotion that come and go. And sometimes the waves are very small and very smooth. And other times they can be really large and incredibly overwhelming. And all of that is completely, again, normal within the range of experiencing emotions. And we're meant to feel all kinds of different types of emotions. And so being able to manage or regulate our emotions doesn't mean that we should step away negative emotions, try to avoid it, try not to feel it, or trying to cling on to the positive emotions of happiness or gratitude or peace. It means that we are meant to experience all of those things, the full range. And there are ways that sometimes we can embrace that and do that very well, and other times when life is difficult or sometimes Parkinson's symptoms are becoming more challenging, it can sometimes get harder to ride those waves of emotion. And so sometimes we need a little bit of a reminder that emotions are temporary, like most things in life. Just like waves, they build, they eventually peak, and then they crest. And so being able to recognize that process of how emotions tend to behave, how they tend to rise and fall, and being able to kind of stay mindful of that in the experience of the emotion is what we call surfing the waves of emotion. Because if we try to outswim the wave, if we try to avoid the experience of the emotion, what tends to happen is that it will build even more intensity and then crash on us. But if we learn to ride the wave, we can stay above the water. We don't necessarily get taken under, and we don't feel overwhelmed or drowned by them. And so this is very much an art of being able to experience emotions, and one that doesn't come easily for most people. It tends to take quite a bit of practice, but it also means that we have to be mindful of the emotions that we experience, how they tend to affect us both physically as well as in terms of our behavior and our outlook on things. And we have to be able to recognize that sometimes we're not always going to feel emotionally positive, and that's okay. Again, it's not about stuffing away the negative and only trying to savor and hold on to the positive. Emotional wave surfing is recognizing all the emotions that you may experience in the course of any average day. And some days that may be pretty simple and kind of boring, and other days it may be very exciting or very rocky. And so, for me as someone who lives under the same roof as an adolescent girl right now, I can tell you firsthand that there are many, many emotions that can occur in a very short period of time in the range of human experience. So for you guys, do you notice that there may be certain emotions that you react strongly toward? Are there things that you notice that tends to maybe create a bit more of a strong reaction in you? And we can type in the chat if you have any comments you'd like to make in reaction to that question. So any emotions where you may have a stronger reaction, where you tend to feel it more. One person said empathy. And I've got a couple people that responded with fear. So they feel fear more. Anxiety. Deception, anxiety. I easily become tearful to sad news. When someone disagrees with me, my body reacts, sweaty palms, heart racing, anxiety, grief, feelings of inadequacy, feelings of discomfort, happiness, arguments, joy. When someone is trying to, feels like they're trying to control my world, it makes me feel threatened. Conflict, loneliness, anxiety, love, death, grief, negative comments. Again, maybe inadequacy when I think someone thinks I'm not smart enough. Anxiety. And sometimes it's fear, anxiety, it sounds like about one's own life and situation, but then also other people that are in your life may also influence that. Fear of uncertainty. Harder for me to take a pause and respond during an interaction rather than react. Someone said some politicians. To be honest, they are all magnified these days, so all emotion feel magnified. Someone said watching my football team, and I have to stop watching because I get anxious. Someone said apathy. Yes. Okay, you guys are really good at emotional labeling, I have to say. This is excellent. So sometimes when I'm working with folks, we talk about like umbrella emotions versus specific emotions. So one umbrella emotion that sometimes I'll get a lot is people say that they feel stressed. And I'll say, well, what does that mean? What does stress actually entail? And what do you think is contributing to that? And so being able to say, being, worried or fearful about the future, feeling concerned that others don't have, my best interests at heart, feeling worried about the well-being of someone that I care about. So you guys are actually really, really good at not just identifying umbrellas of the emotion, but also the more specific labelings, which is fantastic. So when you feel these emotions, how much do you feel like you allow yourself to sit with that emotion versus trying to push it away? Do you let it sit or do you push it? Someone said, I try to get rid of it. Someone said, with sadness, I let it sit. Okay. Ooh, I like Mindy's, I say hello to it. Someone said they push it when it's negative. Someone said, I push it away if I'm talking to my husband, but if I'm alone, I'll let it sit. And someone said, inclination is to push. I'm learning to sit with it, then clear it away. Breath in, breath out works most of the time. I like that Julie's being honest. Sometimes I numb it with chocolate. I let it simmer and then take it off the burner. Ooh, I like that image. That's a good one. Sometimes you have to let it cook before you take it away. Lately, I've been trying to sit with it, but others don't always understand that reaction. That, I think, is an incredibly good point, that sometimes we do need to sit with how we feel, even when it isn't positive emotion, right? Sometimes it's just we're just not feeling it that day. We're just feeling sad, or we're feeling despondent, or we're feeling anxious. And sometimes we just have to embrace that we feel that way. And sometimes other people don't have that mindset, and they're like, well, how can I make it better? How can I fix it? How can I make that go away for you? And so it can sometimes be a little bit of a disconnect. And so I try to withdraw from the source of the feeling. And says it depends on what the cause was. Push it unless there is something I need to review as to why. Okay. So sometimes saying, is this something that is helpful information? Is it something that I need to take into account? Or is it maybe something that is pulling me under or drawing me down on a more consistent basis? Someone said, try to let it go. And I would also differentiate between letting go versus pushing away. Do you guys, even as we say it, do you feel the difference in what that would mean when you experience an emotion? Letting it go versus pushing away. Letting go is a little bit more of a natural part of the process versus pushing away as something active that you're trying to do to make something different than what it is. Someone said, I practice mindfulness to try and accept it and try not to be too self-critical. Yes. I had a whole talk a few months ago on self-criticism. I think it's one we'll eventually circle back to, because I think that ends up being a huge piece of being able to respond and regulate emotions. Okay. So I think we could talk a lot about this, and I would love to talk more, but I want to make sure that we have time for our meditation for today as well. But I love that you guys are so in tune already with some of these experiences and what you tend to do with them, because it's not about judging it like, oh gosh, I'm bad for pushing it, or oh gosh, I'm doing so awesome because I'm sitting with it. It's more, what do I do just so that I can understand myself better and what my inclinations are? So I want us to do a brief mindfulness exercise on being able to kind of come in tune with the idea of emotional surfing. Okay. So let's get comfortable in your chair, recliner or couch, kitchen counter, wherever you happen to find yourself today. I think I saw someone in a car. And as you shift into this space for our meditation, being aware of your body, being aware of your breath without necessarily changing it. And consider shifting attention to your emotions in this moment. Remembering that our emotions can change minute to minute, but just kind of getting a barometer for where they are now. You may be feeling comfort or peace or contentment. You might be feeling anxiety, sadness, anger. Just practicing noticing and labeling those emotions that you are feeling in this moment without pushing or shoving any particular emotion away. Just noticing what's there. Taking a deep breath here to ground in your body. And I want you to imagine that you are standing on a beautiful, calm beach. You can feel the sand on your feet, the warmth of the sun on your face. And you can hear the waves of the ocean crashing steadily across the shore. Imagine that you step down into the surf of the water and feel the cool rush of the bubbles over the top of your feet. You notice that the water changes color depending on its movement. You see a wide array of blues and greens shimmering in the sunlight. As you notice the rhythm of the waves, remembering that the waves are just like your emotions. They're powerful for a very short period of time. They eventually peak and then fade away. There is no need to change the rhythm of the waves. It ends up being fruitless anyway. They simply fade on their own. And often when we experience intense emotions, it feels like they'll never stop, which sometimes leads us to act impulsively, push emotions away, which ends up amplifying the experience, making the waves bigger and harder to surf. But remember that you've experienced many strong emotions before, and they've passed. They always do. Accepting our emotions, allowing them to peak and crest on their own, allows for some freedom from suffering. And sometimes it helps for us to ride the wave by focusing on some things that we have a little bit more say over, such as our breath. And so here I want you to practice taking some slow, deep breaths. Maybe inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, and trying to exhale for 6 seconds. Let's try that all together. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Trying a few cycles of this on your own as you feel comfortable doing so. Almost imagining the breath as a wave as well. Allowing yourself a smoother experience. A better center of gravity foothold despite the overwhelm that may surround you at times. Remembering the breath is always somewhere you can return. A powerful anchor as we try to surf through our lives. Let's take one more deep breath here. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And allowing your breathing to come back to a more natural state, whatever's comfortable for you. Maybe start rolling your shoulders, shifting in your seat, opening your eyes when the time feels right. Starting to see some eyes. Perfect. We have just a few minutes left. So as you come back to your awareness, any thoughts on our practice for today? Questions? It can be an interesting experience for sure when we're trying to surf waves, even during a time that we're maybe a little bit more calm, like during Mindfulness Monday. Someone said, if you didn't experience much anxiety, does Parkinson's make you more anxiety ridden? For some, yes. So again, because of some of the chemical changes that can occur with Parkinson's, as well as some of the symptoms and how you're trying to cope with them, we see that anxiety can become more prominent in those with Parkinson's, upwards of anywhere from 20 to 40%, depending on the study you read. So yes, absolutely, anxiety can be a more predominant experience for those with Parkinson's. And someone said that they found it enjoyable to find some guided relaxations. And I also read another comment farther back. Someone had said that when it comes to letting go or sitting with emotion, that sometimes it depends on the purpose of the emotion. Letting go releases tension, but pushing may help us find a solution. And I think that there's some truth to that, because sometimes we have to understand why it is that we're experiencing that emotion. And if there is a particular problem or, situation that does need to be addressed so that something changes so that we can feel better, sometimes we do need to engage in what we call problem-focused coping. In other situations, there is no answer to the thing that is creating the emotion. There is no way of getting rid of it or making it different, in which case we have to engage in more what we call emotion-focused coping. So I do think that that is a good distinction to make. So, okay. But I am glad to see, let's see, someone said my wave of anxiety got a little lower with the meditation. That's awesome. Sometimes at first when you do this, it actually can increase the wave a little bit. And someone had said anxiety makes more anxiety for me. anxiety can beget more anxiety. It tends to feed off of itself, and it is hard to sometimes break that cycle. And so sometimes we have to switch set. We have to find something that helps us to direct our attention to something else that's going on in the moment, because often anxiety isn't something it's about what's happening right here, right now. Often it's in the future or in the past. Not to say that there aren't things that can make us anxious in the moment either, but if you notice the anxiety is living somewhere in the future or somewhere behind you, where can you redirect attention on something that's going on right now to help break that cycle? So that we could probably do a whole mindfulness Monday on as well. So thank you guys so much. I'll take it back to Krista.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Rush. I really admire everyone's inquiries and the way that you shared in today's exploration of our wave of emotions, right?
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. Well, I hope you all have a healthy and warm and joyful or experiential of the wave of emotions week ahead of you. And we'll see you next week with Lisa Sarno, and we'll be exploring a new topic with her next week. Be well until then.